I am so excited and pumped to speak to our next guest today. He is a triple Olympian, although I technically want to say a 5-time Olympian. We can maybe fill in some grey areas when it comes to that throughout this chat. Who has won 3 Olympic medals and is one of the household names when it comes to the sport of equestrian. He is in the battle of his life right now to make it to his 4th Olympics after a very interesting 2024, to say the least. But it's a pleasure to welcome to Off the Podium Shane Rose. Shane, first of all, welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having me. Good to be here.
It's a pleasure to have you here, Shane. And I want to start off with, because as I said to you off air, we usually get straight into how did you get in the sport, your journey through it, rising up the ranks. But for you right now, I think it's a little bit different because we're recording this 78 days away from the Olympics, 79 days until you're meant to be on a horse competing on day 1 of the eventing. But you had a bit of a fall a couple of months ago, a few injuries, a broken femur, fractured pelvis and ribs, heavy concussion. This not a very fun time for you. So I want to start off by asking Shane, 79 days away from you being in Paris, how are you? Are you going to be there? How's the recovery going?
The recovery's going really well. Fortunately, I haven't had any setbacks along the way. I had this little dream that I could, after 8 weeks, I could get back on a horse, and touch wood, I might be able to have a sit to see if I can on the weekend.
Great.
So, really promising. I'm really confident that I will. I'm no doubts that I'll be able to get back for Paris. I've been in, although not direct conversation, but I've been in conversation with the selectors, and I don't need to do an event. The only event that I can do is at Werribee on the second weekend in June. So if I'm able to do that, that's great. If I'm not, then they're comfortable if I'm showing enough to them that I'm capable of getting to Paris, then I don't have to do that. I'm really confident with the preparation so far and how I've been healing, and I'm really confident I can get there.
Which must add a bit of confidence and to have that support that you don't necessarily need to that competition. But I also can imagine part of you probably does if you're ready to kind of prove to yourself or get yourself competition ready for the Olympics to be able to compete in Werribee. Yeah,
look, I'm really fortunate that I've had a very long relationship with Virgil, who I'm hoping to go on. And I don't need the competition experience. I don't need to do what I need to do to get to Paris at a competition. Of course, I will, for my own benefit and the selectors and everyone involved, I need to prove that I can do it. But I can prepare Virgil in training to be at his best come Paris. The event I did to finish my qualifications in New Zealand at the beginning of the year, I did that without any, I didn't have a lead-up event going into that. So I know I've done it enough in the past, and I've proven already this year that I can prepare him as well as I need to without competition. It's always a bonus to get out in front of, crowds and things like that, or an advantage, I guess, rather than a bonus. But I'm more than confident I'll be able to get there and do the dressage and show jumping, if not the whole event. So, things so far, as long as they keep going the way they're going, are on track.
What is that rehab process for you like right now? Kind of what are you doing every day to get yourself ready for the Olympics?
Right now, it's hard work. So I have 3 or 4 sessions a day. I start most mornings 9 o'clock in the gym, strength and condition training. The guys here at the AS have been really good at really targeting the kind of training to what I need, not just a normal. It's not like I've just been churned into a system that a runner would do or the other guys would do. It's firstly about getting the muscles sort of back, because I was 6 weeks non-weight bearing, most of that, pretty much all of that in the bed. Built up to the stage where I could start doing I'm doing this morning's routine, squats, lots of squats. But yeah, basically all encompassing all areas, upper body, lower body, a lot of core, a lot of strength in riding position, obviously adductors and all sorts of stuff like that. So the gym session goes for about an hour and a half in the morning. I get a bit of time off. I do a lot of fitness stuff. So on the bike for sort of 45 minutes, a whole heap of different exercise. Some of them are short and high power, and some of them are long and lower power. So sort of challenging different areas of the fitness side of it. Been doing a lot of work in the pool as well, and that's how I started back into exercise, where basically just movement without full body weight, so up to waist deep in the water. And I'm this week I started running in the water, which was good, just to add some more load to the injured areas, and I see the physio every day as well. Work on walking is probably the hardest thing to do without a limp. You wouldn't have thought walking was so hard, but it's difficult. The balance that I struggle on my right leg with balance, just because of the weakness of the muscles and a bit of pain and trying to trigger those muscles to work and fire properly. Just with the slightest bit of balance on my left hand, like with a walking stick, I walk perfectly. So I'm close, but yeah, it's really good, and it's good being down here because I'm living here on site and have access to doctors and sports psychs and nutritionists. Sort of anything I sort of require is on hand if I need it.
Great. I bet if you were to do a trivia to most people and say which athletes are preparing heavily in the Olympics in a pool right now, you'd be going Emma McKeon, the triathletes, the water polo players. I don't think you're really going to go many on the equestrian side of things, right? I don't think many people would get, right, Shane Rose, equestrians in the pool a lot right now.
Yeah, no, they probably wouldn't. But look, anything I can do to get myself back on a horse quicker is well worth it.
Which, you've basically broken every bone in your body. You've had many injuries over the years. How does this compare in terms of the recovery process? Is there a little bit extra to it because it is so close to an Olympic Games that this makes this one a little bit more challenging compared to some of the others?
Oh, no. The biggest difference is, I guess, that basically my sort of pelvis was smashed. So there's basically 6 bones that hold your pelvis together. There's I think they're called ischions or the pubic somethings, 4 bones that join underneath, plus at the back the sacrum or sacroiliac bones on either side. And of the 6 bones, I've broken 5 of them. So
wow,
there's really no stability in my pelvis, and also femur fractures is the biggest bone in your body. So those 2 combined, they were the biggest issue. So if I'd have just broken the 8 ribs and 3 vertebrae, it would have probably not vertebrae as such, spinal processes, which are the bones on the side of your vertebrae. I'd have probably been back on a horse in a few weeks. But the fact that the pelvis had no stability, they've had to wait 6 weeks for it to get enough strength in it for me to be able to start walking. And then obviously the concerns are is that if I get on a horse too soon, the chances of breaking my pelvis again is big. So I need to be strong enough that I can physically do it and try not to fall off when I get back on. Yeah, so that's been the biggest difference. I've busted ribs before and they're really painful. Most horse riders will have broken a rib or certainly damaged them at some stage and will understand the pain. But interestingly, the pain for my ribs this time was minor in comparison to the pelvis fracture. Normally, if you cough or breathe, your ribs really hurt. Well, if I coughed, my pelvis absolutely ached. So by the time my ribs were sort of getting better, or I was certainly able to move. My ribs have been absolutely fine and haven't caused any dramas at all. So interesting how your body sort of works.
Yeah, and interesting where you learn all these facts, how many bones are in the pelvis, how many bones are here. Like, these are things you don't know until you break them, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So, and like now the pelvis is feeling reasonably good. My hip, because I sort of broke the back of my hip as well. That's probably the thing that's concerned me most about getting back on the horse, is whether I can get my leg over the saddle and sit in it. And I've been doing some exercises in the last week that make me comfortable that I think I can get back on and won't be too bad.
I love the video you posted on Instagram just before this interview about a week ago, your recovery process. And there's a shot of you on an exercise bike with a horse, kind of like one of those toy ones that the kids would ride as a kid. Is that little Virgil? Is that kind of just the inspiration to get you there towards Paris?
The lovely staff here at the AIS thought I'd feel more at home on a bike if it looked like a horse. A bike's not my natural thing, but the guys here have been really supportive of me, and just another way of showing it.
Just a random question on the AIS, actually. What's it like there at the moment? I can imagine there's a whole hub of Olympians currently scurrying around, training, everything like that. Is it just kind of the hotbed if people want an Olympian spot right now, go to the AIS in Canberra?
Yeah, it's interesting. There's a few sports that are based here, but there's not as many sports based here as there used to be, I believe. There's a lot of people that come in for camps. So I think it was yesterday, or the day before, there's thousands of little, younger paddles. I'm not sure if they're rowers or paddle or what kind of, but there was a bunch of kids come in. There's a few sports, like I said, that are based here. Volleyball, some basketballers, and then the gymnasts are here, I think, full time as well. But I believe it's a really fluent sort of situation with people coming and going, and camps being based here and things like that.
I saw an interview with you not long after the injury, the incident, and you were obviously straight away almost questioning, how many days are the Olympics? Well, what have I got? You know, your mind's kind of on that, ready to go. I mean, is that kind of the driving force, obviously, to get to Paris? Because, you know, as I said, triple Olympian, triple medalist, but there's one medal that's missing from that cupboard. It's a gold. So, I mean, I guess all these things kind of help to really, when you're doing these multiple hours a day in a gym and rehab, to kind of push you through that pain, push that, because you've got unfinished business to attend to.
Yeah, I certainly feel like I have unfinished business. I think probably the thing that about the proximity to the Olympic Games, the biggest thing it's probably made me do is actually listen to my doctors and physios, that I don't do anything dumb, do anything too soon, because I really only have one chance at getting this right. So the pain, I'm pretty good with pain. No one likes pain, but I'm quite used to it. So the determination to get back, I think I've always sort of got that. Certainly the being so close to the games, I'm working extra hard. I'm being more diligent, like I said, because I've only got one shot. If I have a setback, if I get on too soon and re-injure something, then that's it. There's no second chances from here. So,
well, we're going to be keeping an eye on things, and all the fingers and toes and everything are going to be crossed for you that we're going to see there in Paris. I want to go back to the beginning though. So you started 5 years old, I believe, in the sport. What was it about horse riding, pony riding, everything that got you involved and decided to make a living out of equestrian?
Yeah, so I've got two older sisters and an older brother, and we all grew up on horses. So basically, Mum thought it would be safer for us to go out on a horse in the bush rather than on bikes, because if we fall off, at least the horses will come home.
How's she feeling now, Shane? She must be loving that decision.
Yeah, no, exactly. But the good thing is horses do come home, and that's how people know you've fallen off. So I grew up on a horse, and as a kid, I actually wanted to play rugby and did play rugby right through school. I ride horses in the summer and play rugby in the winter. And I guess the thing different to our upbringing was I'd come home from school and I'd use my horses as a means of transport to go and see friends or girlfriends or whatever, and used to ride through the bush, and we're pretty natural sort of riding. There was no lessons and or certainly wasn't a big part of our upbringing, education of how to do things. It was more about just get on and enjoy and ride. And I got to a crossroads sort of at the end of school, year 10, whether I stay on and do school and play rugby or whether I leave and do something else. And I was getting sort of smashed up. I was pretty tiny, and when I left school, sort of like 60 kilos and playing with, 6 foot plus grown men not men, they were just my age, but 110 kilo lads that were
basically
sort of
men.
around.
Come on, Jesus.
Yeah, pretty much. So, so I decided to leave school. I went to England to basically see if I wanted to do the horses full time. So I went over to England for 9 months and based with Jane Thelwell, who had the previous year won Burleigh. Loved it. And basically ever since sort of figured out a way to be able to pay for my sport and which has become my hobby. Because I need a business that pays for it. And that's sort of where I'm at.
Not a bad hobby. Get to go to the Olympics, win some medals. That's not too bad with that. Were the Olympics sort of, once you made that choice, was that always the goal, or was it something that as a kid you watched and kind of looked at the Olympics and thought, well, that would be something cool to achieve one day?
I guess I've always looked at elite sport, and like even now I love sport, all sports. And I guess when I was riding, I just assumed I'm a bit different. I never had a hero. I never really thought of going to the Olympics that I can recall. I just was riding, so that was what I was doing, and I wanted to be the best at what I was doing. And so at each level, I was sort of like I did quite well in the young riders, and then I sort of started to win a few events in the senior competition, and then that led into getting selected in teams and sort of moving forward. And like going to the Olympics, our goal is to win gold medals. We're not there just to show up and enjoy it. I think the first time you go to Olympics, that's certainly part of it. But, certainly Australians feel that going to an Olympic Games is an opportunity to win a medal, not just a bit of a joyride. And that's certainly the way I look at it. And so it's never sort of been a goal as such to win, to go to the Olympics and win medals, but it sort of morphed into its own sort of inevitability that, if I want to be the best, then winning a gold medal is sort of how you prove that.
And it's also that level of any professional sportsman, woman, they're going to look at what is the peak in their respective sports. Had you gone the rugby route, that might have been playing for the Wallabies at a World Cup, whereas obviously in equestrian, it's World Championships, World Equestrian Games, the Olympics, they're the sort of ones that you then strive towards.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's sort of, that's why I say it's sort of morphed in it. So, I mean, the fact that I'm riding a horse, going to World Championships and trying to win them and Olympic Games absolutely is my goal now. It wasn't a childhood dream. I want to go and ride a horse and win an Olympic gold medal, but that's my sport. That's the top of the sport, and that's what I want to do.
When it comes to the discipline side of things, we've had a few athletes on recently, dressage athletes. We had Hilary Scott on recently to talk show jumping. When it comes to the eventing side of things, is it a case of, I'm a bit okay at dressage, I'm a bit okay at jumping, I'm a bit okay, let's combine them? Or do you sort of get, raised in the eventing world? Like, how does that work that you choose eventing over just a separate one like a dressage or jumping?
I think you'll find with most eventers, the reason we event is because the cross-country phase is the best part of our sport. And obviously the jumping is part of, similar to the cross-country. And I think people who do dressage don't like jumping.
I can imagine they don't have to do many jumpings in dressage, right?
Yeah. So, there's certainly a fear factor. And I mean, looking at me now, like there are consequences for being an eventer. the fact that we're galloping over fixed fences, in and out of water, up and down hills. The challenge of the cross country phase is why eventers event. Dressage, some people enjoy it more than others, but it's a necessary evil, I guess you'd say, to most eventers. And, it is part of our sport, which the fact that we have to master 3 disciplines is also, an interesting challenge. There's a lot more horsemanship in eventing than the other 2 disciplines, in that we need to make sure our horses are fit. We need to get them strong. We need to have them very trainable for both the dressage and the show jumping, all 3 disciplines really. But the fact that we have to be across so many different areas increases the challenge, and just finishing an event at an elite level is a process and a win, and to be able to do that and hopefully win a gold medal is the pinnacle of what we do.
We're big fans in this show, Shane, of sports that sort of combine other sports, like a modern pentathlon, a Nordic combined in the winter, and it's sort of, it is the way you describe that. I mean, dressage is so different to cross country, right? Like they're completely different aspects of it. But 2 quick questions on that. The first one, why do we not have individual cross country at the Olympic Games? Why is there not a medal event just for cross country?
There should be.
There should
Absolutely.
be. There's dressage. There's that's the one missing, and I always think there is, but there isn't. Like, it just seems weird.
Yeah, no, and if you're a gymnast and you go in the all around, correct me if I might not get it quite right, but you get a medal for each individual discipline.
You do. Yeah, and
then you get a medal for. So we should have a medal for the dressage phase, a medal for the cross country phase, and 100%. A medal for the completion of the event.
Is there in the World Championship? Is there like a cross country?
No.
So there isn't even. No. Wow. Okay.
Yeah, so it's just, I guess the tradition of our events, and equestrian is through military. Horses were used in the war. So the eventing started with the fact that the dressage was the parade drill, so you had to educate them so that they could do the parades. The cross country was actually training for war. So the roads and tracks started where you're marching to the front. The steeplechase was running away from a sniper, jumping anything in your way, continuing on with the roads and tracks to get to the front. And then the cross-country phase was actually war, jumping anything, up and down hills, going through, making sure your horse was fit. And then the theory of the show jumping was jumping the picket fences on the way home after winning the war.
Right.
And to make sure that your horse was fit and sound and still willing to jump. So obviously dressage is derived from that, and the show jumping, they've specialised in their areas, but the event itself was one discipline to begin, or one training discipline, and it started before it was in the Olympic Games, I believe, as just a military exercise, and only military people could join. And I'm not sure exactly of the history, but maybe in the sort of mid 50s and 60s when Australia started to compete was when they changed away from just military people that anyone could join.
Fascinating. I love hearing that history. But I'm saying right now, I just think the World Equestrian Body is just scared that if they made cross-country an individual event, you wouldn't have eventing anymore. Because as you said, everybody loves the cross-country. So all of you are going to go, bugger the dressage and the event. I'm just doing cross-country, right?
Yeah, it certainly would be something I'd put my hand up for.
Yeah, for sure. The other quick question on that, I mean, as I said, we've had dressage athletes on, we've had eventing on, and you're I keep saying eventing, jumping. I know what I'm talking about. We haven't had an eventer on since we had Andrew Hoy on a couple of years ago. And through this phase, I've discovered that Australia's only ever won medals in eventing. I thought we were winning medals in all the disciplines, but dressage and jumping, we've never won it in it. Why are we so good eventers? Is it just because we like to combine all 3 of them and that we don't like to stick to just dressage or jumping?
I think probably a bit tradition. If you look at the history of the Europeans, they've been breeding dressage and jumping horses specifically for dressage and jumping for hundreds of years. So the basis of what they did was dressage and jumping, and they were not historically weren't ever that great at the eventing phase. The sport has changed, and as the sport has changed to stay in the Olympics, we've lost the roads and tracks and steeplechase. The type of horse we need has changed. So it used to be a domination of thoroughbreds in eventing, whereas now you look at championships and there's a lot less. Like it would be a massive, it would be 100% opposite. It is mostly sport horses with a few thoroughbreds. That's probably a big thing that was in our favour back in the going through time, is that because we could train horses, it wasn't, and our sport is not just about the horse. So if you take a ratio of how much is the horse and how much is the rider, in dressage and jumping, it's a bit controversial, but in dressage and jumping, you can buy a horse that will win you a medal if you have enough money. Yes, you need some talent to be able to do it. Not saying that dressage and jumping riders aren't talented.
I couldn't just jump on a dressage horse tomorrow and win gold. That's what you're saying. I need to have some skill.
Yes, absolutely. But the horse is such a big part of the process. The fact that the European countries and countries of not Australia, they have the resources to get the horses, they have the money to buy them, and they also have the training in those disciplines over hundreds of years, fine-tuning their skills. So naturally, the eventing has suited us better because it's more about the trainers and the riders and putting it all together. And because the horse is, absolutely the best horses go well, but in eventing, you need to be a very good rider of cross country to be able to do the cross country. You can't just buy a good horse and expect that is going to get you there. So I guess that's why a lot of Australians have sort of gone down the route of eventing, and it also is a bit more in our tradition. A lot of our farmers and most people that lived on the land used to muster and grew up on horses in the country, galloping up and down hills and over logs. And it's been a natural thing for us to be able to do. Whereas, if you're in Germany, there's not many places where you can gallop up and down a hill chasing cows. So to learn that skill is very different to them to learning a dressage or a show jumping skill. Whereas for us, naturally being able to gallop and do that part, we just have to tack on the dressage and jumping skills to that, which for us has been easier to do.
Great way of explaining that. I think that makes a lot of sense and everything along those lines too, to really kind of hear that. And Australia, we've won medals in 6 of the last 8 Olympics in eventing. It was at Athens, I believe, and I want to say London. Thank you, that we didn't win medals in. That's why we got Shane on the show. And we sit 5th overall on the medal tally in terms of gold medals won. We're actually tied with the US and Great Britain, but they are slightly ahead of us because they've won a few more. So I'm just saying, you get the 2 gold in Paris, prevent Germany from winning it, prevent anyone, whether you'd win it both, you'd be equal top up there with Germany. So, that's how good we are in this discipline when it comes to equestrian, which I want to touch on. I said at the beginning, technically a 5-time Olympian, Shane. I want to point out the 2 that I think kind of should count, even though I guess you technically didn't go, you were there. Let's start with Atlanta, because I was reading here that you had the choice between 2 horses. You made the team for Atlanta. You had the choices between 2 horses. You chose one, and then that one pulled up lame, so you couldn't go. You were replaced. The team went on to win gold. Is that how it happened? Explain to me around this Atlanta situation. And I'm very intrigued about how you can pick the wrong horse and then you ultimately don't end up an Olympic gold medalist.
Yeah, so sort of close. Yes, I was selected in the squad for Atlanta. Back in those days, we travelled, certainly the Australian hemisphere horses. We went over for 3 months before the games to America to acclimatise the horses. And On selection into the squad, they said I could take either of the horses. They were very similar in performance. They'd sort of been, basically wherever they were, one in front of the other, as they were going through that process. So I chose to take a horse that I felt had the best chance of winning and going well. And unfortunately, about a month before the games in America, the horse started to, basically got a soft tissue injury. And realistically, basically the games were over for me then. At the time, I was absolutely devastated. But I think the next one you'll compare it to is London. In hindsight, I was a long way from. I certainly wasn't selected in the team. There were 7 riders that competed in Atlanta, 4 in the team and 3 individuals. I felt like I had a really strong chance of being in that group, but I hadn't actually as yet been picked, and who knows what would have happened. But then I think the next one you're alluding to is London, which that was a very different scenario. I was picked in the team. I was selected. I had moved into the Olympic Village. We headed back to the horses to pick them up the day of they were moving into the village. We trotted them up, and unfortunately, my horse was not fit to compete. He was a bit lame. He pulled out or started the morning a bit lame, and the decision was that it was too big a risk to go in with him like that. So having to then go into the Olympic Village and unpack and go on national television and sort of talk to the media was pretty tough. Knowing and you feel great as an athlete. I felt like the horse was in the best form of his life. He had a really strong chance of an individual medal and really could have contributed well to the team. And for that to be taken away from you because the horse isn't quite 100% was really tough. And that one, I feel I was pretty close to that 4th Olympic appearance, but wasn't to be.
I'll come back to the Atlanta one because now that you brought this up, because again, you're in the village. You've no doubt been given your uniform. You've got your accreditation. You've got everything there. Like it's set to go. I mean, what do you even do once you leave the village? I mean, do you just go off on a 2-week bender across Europe and just tune out of the Olympics? Like, I mean, how do you even recover from that?
London was really tough. So in Atlanta, I actually stayed on. My girlfriend at the time was riding as an individual, or was selected as an individual after the fact. So I stayed on to support her and the team. There's different versions of this story, but I felt like I was there. I drove Andrew because he was in team competition. I also had a horse in the individual, and I drove him backwards and forwards to his horse. So we could work the 2 horses.
Best driver ever to get gold medal. Like, there you go.
Yeah. No, sort of felt like I was helping out and contributing to the team. Whereas London, I was on the next plane out of there. I was not wanting to be around that sort of environment. I found that really difficult to cope with, really, and jumped on a plane and sort of got on. I mean, my real focus coming out of London was to make sure that next time I had 2 horses in contention, that if one went wrong, that I'd have a backup horse. And certainly that happened at World Championships in 2014, where that scenario actually happened, and a similar thing where I had to change horses at the last minute.
It's fascinating. Like, and also when the way I love how a horse is described as lame. It's so dramatic. Like, I mean, it's just I feel a bit mean for the horse there when it comes like you're lame, horse. You can't compete. Yeah,
and certainly comparing me now to my horses, I walk a lot worse than my horses trotting, I can tell you.
Yeah, we need to call humans lame with that. I mean, just back in Atlanta, though, with that choice of horse, so had you chosen the other horse, would that have been different? Would you have then been on that team for Atlanta?
Yeah, I'm not sure. Look, that's why I say, like, London really hurt because it was final. Whereas I was in a group of 10 that could have been chosen. And had I chosen a different horse, yeah, absolutely, things could have worked out differently. But I think you can't dwell on. I mean, at the time, I was like, "Oh, I'll just get the other horse over. There's still time." But decisions are decisions, and look, I was comfortable with the decision I made. I felt the horse that I chose, and certainly seeing the venue at Atlanta, he could have been really, really competitive at that event, and I think more so than the other horse, and certainly more reliable and just a better horse on the up, whereas the other horse was a bit of an older horse, not necessarily on the decline, but certainly he was at the peak of his powers, where the other horse was at a similar level on the way up and improving. So yeah, it's a hypothetical, potentially it could have, but I made a choice. I was comfortable with my choice. I'm still comfortable. Like if I had the same choice again, other than the fact that I knew the horse was going to go lame, I'd have still chosen the same horse.
What was it like, though, just being around that? I mean, that is the absolute golden era of Australian equestrian. That was 3 Olympic gold medals in a row. You've mentioned Andrew. I'm thinking Gillian Rolton, Matt Ryan, Philip Dutton, like these icons of the sport. And your teammates you're hanging around with, you were 23 in Atlanta, if I'm not mistaken, so you're quite young. But what was it like being exposed to these legends of the sport that did so well? 3 Olympic gold medals in a row.
Yeah, no, I really felt that I was capable of being in and around them. Whether maybe some of that's a little bit of overconfidence and as you have as a young kid. I do recall, in one of the times I was driving Andrew, he packed a bag of clothes to go to his horse, and he still does this because I've roomed with him in Tokyo. But he folds his clothes better than you could imagine. Anyone could fold a piece of clothing. He stacks them in color coordination, height, size, any shape. He'd place his gloves on the top of the bag, zip it up. His attention to detail, which probably didn't really hit me as to how much attention to detail he had, but that's packing his bag. I know this for sure. Every item of whether you're talking about boots, his own boots, the horse's boots, bridles, bits, his processes in his training, his scheduling, everything is so detailed. I'm never going to be as detailed as him, and I don't think I have to be, but just knowing how he worked and seeing that was a real eye-opener. It's like, wow, these guys are so professional, and it certainly helped me going forward. So I'd had some success, and then you had a couple of years where things could have gone differently, but wasn't selected in the next couple of championships, and really worked on that sort of side of my preparation. Is that it's not just about riding a horse, it's about how you present your horses and making sure they're fit and healthy, and the whole process of getting everything in, all your ducks in a row, so that when you go to compete, it happens. You're not improving for the competition, you're just doing your thing, and the competition happens, and from that the results will flow.
Before we touch on that, one thing I'll just add on, Andrew, I mean, not to take away from the GOAT, right? But 8 Olympics, 6 medals. You, 3 Olympics, 3 medals. You're 100%. He's not. Makes Shane Rose better. Just saying.
Yeah, well, I'm hearing that.
Yep.
Hopefully we can add to that in Paris, 4 and 4. That'd be nice.
Ratios don't lie, Shane. Just saying. Yeah. That's how you do comparisons. I mean, on what you're talking about there, though. So ultimately, don't go to Sydney, don't go to Athens. It's then Beijing where you officially make your debut. Was that a case of what you're saying there, sort of through that performances? I mean, how close were you to those Sydney and Athens teams, and kind of take us through briefly, I guess, what happened there?
I was in the mix for Sydney, but realistically, I was very much on the outside edge. I think things would have things would have had to, I don't know that I would have got into the team. My horse was a bit lame in Sydney as well. Different scenario. Was just a niggle that sort of happened. Sydney, realistically, I probably wasn't that close. But Athens, I actually thought I was going to be the first person picked. I had the same horse. I'd actually developed a really good partnership with her. I'd sort of had her for 4 or 5 years at this stage, whereas it was a fairly new partnership at Sydney. She'd been very consistent throughout the sort of 2 years leading up to the event. I felt her form was great. She was really reliable. And, I was going to be one of the first picked. And I was a bit wrong. I wasn't even in the squad. But later that year, she went on to win Adelaide 5-star by 20 marks and sort of probably confirmed to me that I actually probably was right. We didn't go as well in those games as potentially we had hoped for. But, everyone who doesn't get selected, the only people who aren't happy with selection are the people who don't get selected. And, like at the time I was really disappointed and felt like I probably should have been. But 4 years later, I was lucky to be in a position where I was selected. So,
well, just adding the fact that those Athens and London, the two that we haven't medalled in the last 8, you weren't on the team. So,
Well, there's something in that, isn't there?
I'm just pointing it out there again. The stats don't lie, Shane. So, it's there. What was that moment like then, though, when come to Beijing? Obviously, you get a medal, so it obviously adds to it. But just that experience of finally you're there, you're at the Olympics, and you do come away with an Olympic medal as well.
Yeah, look, it was really mixed emotions, that whole process. The horse I had was probably one of the best horses I've ever ridden. Unfortunately, he probably wasn't the soundest horse, the strongest, as in he had lots of little niggles through his competition career. And he did do that event with a little niggle, which wasn't making him lame, but just probably wasn't quite 100%. So there was always, the whole process was never fun. It was never like, wow, I'm smashing this. And I had I'm not sure how to say this, but basically I didn't get on with one of the coaches, and not personally, but the style of his training and my horse did not work, and unfortunately in the dressage the horse really didn't. It was the worst test he's ever done, unfortunately. A combination of a few different things, but whilst I ended up finishing individually 14th, which, it's a great result. The team gets a silver medal. I certainly felt, the Olympic experience was amazing. Being part of the team was amazing. Getting a silver medal was amazing. I wonder if I was in that situation with hindsight of 20 years for more of experience or however long it has been, if I'd have changed things that potentially we could have had 2 gold medals and not 1 silver. So it was mixed emotions in that. It was amazing. The first Olympics, the team was great. We were so close. I think it was only four within a rail, I believe, of the gold medal. And things could have been amazing, like gold medal, first Olympic Games would have been great. But certainly took a lot of learnings from that experience. And certainly feel like I've improved both as a team member and individually, sort of moving forward from that.
Because I can imagine a silver medal 12 years later, based on what you're saying, brings different emotions with that. Because again, first Olympics, and I can imagine things that you're maybe not used to at that time, the attention that brings. I mean, equestrian is a sport that unfortunately Australia only really does pay a lot of attention to at an Olympic Games. So you're getting people, journalists, all these sort of things and attention that you're probably not used to outside of the equestrian community. All of that, fast forward then to what is then your third Olympics or another silver medal. Is that the level of things where you're talking with that experience that you can handle a little bit better and kind of things along those lines that I'm sure help a little bit more with that preparation compared to your first Olympics?
Yeah, definitely. And look, I even go back to to Rio. I actually felt better about my performance in Rio. Unfortunately, I was eliminated with a couple of 100 meters to go in the cross country, which at the time I thought was a bit controversial. But anyhow, we'll move on. Rightly or wrongly, was given instructions on how I should go out and try and win the individual gold medal, and was really close to doing that. Unfortunately, it didn't quite work, but I felt like I had contributed much more in that scenario to the team getting the bronze medal. We could have won a gold medal in that situation if we, with hindsight, we definitely would have done things differently. But even as it was, the team nearly won that gold medal, and a few of us had little things that we'd love to have changed, and all of us could have potentially helped win that medal. But the feeling of contributing in a more positive way, I felt like I'd done my best, whereas I don't necessarily think that the best performance, or the performance I did in Beijing Olympics, was my best. Moving forward then to Tokyo, going into Tokyo, I don't think anyone outside of our group felt like we could medal. I think most people thought we were probably 5th, 6th, 7th in rankings come the end of the competition. And there were certain, eventing, it's not very often that things go exactly to plan, and certainly it didn't for these games. There were interruptions to the selection process with horses coming in and out in the last minute. Stuart Tinney was selected just like I was in London, and his horse had a temperature before the competition started, and the decision was that he was going to be withdrawn, and Kevin McNabb was put into the team. And to Stuart's credit, he stuck around and helped us amazingly well. And unfortunately for him, if we'd waited 24 hours, he probably would have been in the team, and the horse had recovered from the temperature and could have competed. But
wow.
The fact that all three of the riders, Andrew, Kevin and myself, did as good a performance as we could and were expected to, and achieved probably more than anyone else thought we were capable of, and to win the silver medal was such a different feeling, that we'd done everything we could. We'd beaten the odds to get to where we were. Whereas the team in Beijing, it was really strong. We had all 5 riders who had really successful campaigns, had won long format 3-day events in the 2 years prior. Whereas going into Tokyo, our performance, whilst externally people thought were crap, we were confident that if we produced our best, that we would be really strong. And obviously the Brits were way too strong in that competition for any of us. But we felt like we'd done as good a performance as we could.
And you beat Germany, right? They'd beaten you in the last 2, so finally beat Germany. Let the Brits have one. Give them one.
Yeah, they can have one.
They can have one as long as we beat Germany. There, I'm looking again, staring at this medal tally, Shane. I'm just like, we've got to catch Germany. Like Britain, USA, Sweden, Germany. That's who we want, right? Like
exactly.
Set the target on there. But obviously that was such a unique games too, around COVID and everything that came about that. Was the delay? Did that help sort of towards Australia being able to get up to second, or do you think had it been a year when it was meant to be, it would have been about the same?
I don't know that it would have changed significantly either way for us. It was being the COVID games, I was sort of thinking it was going to be really disappointing, but it actually was a really good experience. The Olympic Village in Tokyo absolutely felt like a normal Olympic village. I think the fact that they'd done such a good job in controlling COVID, and we actually felt quite safe, other than wearing a mask. We actually felt quite safe in the environment, that there were no real, I think it might have been 1 or 2 over the whole Olympic period cases of people testing positive. So the fact that there was such a secure environment, it did feel very normal. And walking around the village, it felt like a normal scenario. So,
touching on those experiences, we always like to hear a bit more of the behind-the-scenes aspect of Olympic Games on this program, Shane. So you went to 3 very unique Olympics. We're talking Beijing, we're talking Rio, you can touch on your very brief London experience if you want to, but I mean, how do you sort of look at the village life, as you're saying, things like bumping shoulders with other athletes? I don't know if you get into pin trading, things like that. I mean, can you compare the 3 that you're at least there for the entire period?
Yeah, so firstly, Beijing was really bizarre, and we were actually based in Hong Kong. So
right, of course, yes.
Yeah, a 3-hour flight. So the games itself, whilst they were great, we were in a bubble, and you got the experience of having to check in and out of bubbles and all that kind of stuff. Bubble being only people inside the bubble are people with accreditation. So that experience was good, but we were in a hotel. Like, it was just like a normal event. It just happened to be an Olympic Games. When we did eventually get to Beijing, that was pretty wild, getting into the Olympic Village, bumping shoulders with all the other athletes. I was riding a bike through the village with Grant Hackett, having a bike race.
Wow.
Who could get into the pool first. And
who won?
Well, they actually got off their bikes, where I just rode straight into the pool, saved time. Hey. Winning's winning, isn't it?
Exactly. You followed the rule. They cheated, so you win 100%.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's why Grant didn't win gold. That's why Grant didn't win gold in Beijing. Just saying, he screwed up.
Yeah, he just needed to try a bit harder.
Yep.
But yeah, that experience was amazing. And sitting in the village, we played this game where you look at athletes and try and guess what sport they are by looking at them.
Yes.
And you see some amazing athletes in Tokyo. Kevin Durant came around with his basketball team to the basketball players, and just people getting selfies. And
wow.
In Rio, I got a photo with the American golfers, Bubba Watson and
nice
guys like that. So just to see different athletes from different sports, the Australian athletes who, obviously are the elite in their disciplines, and bumping shoulders with them and watching them prepare and all of that. It's really a unique experience that, is certainly one of the reasons why the Olympic Games is such an amazing event.
Just on that, getting selfies and meeting people like that, I spoke to Hilary a few weeks back about, bumping shoulders with the boss, Bruce Springsteen, obviously with his daughter involved in the sport. Have you ever bumped into the boss, Mr. Springsteen, at any event?
No. He doesn't come to many events.
Well, maybe he'll be there in Paris. Who knows? Maybe.
Well, he probably will. I'm sure he'll be able to find an accreditation somehow.
The Versailles, grounds of Versailles, that's kind of there. I mean, just briefly, you mentioned obviously that expectations going into Tokyo where the team was at. Where are we at for Paris, Shane? I mean, I talk about the success that we've had, but it has been 24 years since we have won a gold medal in equestrian. So I feel like we're due, aren't we?
Yeah, no, absolutely. Look, I feel we, if we get the right team to Paris, we're going to be really strong. So Andrew, hopefully this weekend gets his qualification. We've got a few people that are just, we didn't have the greatest lead into these games. We had to qualify through a regional qualifier in Mill Street last year, and so Andrew was at that, and therefore his Andrew, Kevin, and Shanae and myself were in that process. So a lot of our qualifications have been delayed because of that. But it certainly feel like we're internally we're really confident of where we're at. If things continue to go in the way that we're hoping that they will, then we're going to have a really strong team, and certainly as confident as we were this time leading into Paris as we were leading into Tokyo.
And Virgil, I mean, again, I still think he should get a silver medal after Tokyo. I still think the horses should get a medal, but I mean, second Olympics, or has he been to more than two? Or so? I mean,
he could have, should have potentially gone to Rio in hindsight, but this is his second Olympic Games. Hopefully, he's been to a couple of World Championships. Yeah, he's in great shape. He's an older horse now. He's 18 currently, so but he's in great shape, physically and mentally. Can't wait to. My wife's been riding him since I've been injured, and can't wait to get back on him. But he's going to be firing come Paris, no doubt.
How quickly does Virgil go to Paris before you, or do you go at the same time?
No, we'll go at the same time. So we sort of learnt this over a period of time. Is we want to be in there for a shorter period of time as practical. Obviously, there's risks with flying horses, and we don't want to do it too late. But at this stage, the flight's booked for the 13th of July, so literally 2 weeks before the games. So they get in. We have 3 or 4 days to recover, and then we have our camp or preparation camp for Paris, and then head straight in. So it's a short trip, but we feel the horses get over the trip within a few days, and then just a 4 or 5, 10-day program to get them up to peaking come the games and into it.
And go for gold. That's simple.
That's it.
It sounds easy on paper, doesn't it? A bit more to it than that. Shane, we like to close off with a set of get-to-know questions, which I'll get to in just a second. 2 quick things that I want to get to before we get to these questions. Mankini, Shane, what the hell happened? And were my legit question with that, the coverage of this. I mean, you and I were talking a little bit off air. We've been, back and forth over the years to get you on the show, and we got very close again at the beginning of this year, and then everything hit the fan with this Mankini. CNN picked this up. This went global. CNN was covering this incident. Were you surprised as how much this blew up after just simply wearing a Mankini at an event?
Yeah, no, absolutely. So my thought was, it started. I went to this fancy dress. Must state that fancy dress competition, and I'd spoken to our team vet Nathan, who's quite a hairy man, and he's Greek, very proud Greek man. And I asked him if I could impersonate him. He said, "Yeah, go for it." Anyway, so I got this hairy suit and put it on and put a Mankini over the top. And the reason being is he's been to a party wearing a Mankini. He told me about it once. So I impersonated him, and I was chuckling to myself for weeks in the lead up, thinking how funny it was. No one else got it, but I sent him the video, and it was all fun and games. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to dress up as someone else, I've got to be brave enough to do it myself. So I just took off the suit, put on the Mankini, and went in. And I didn't think it would get out of Wallaby Hill. There was probably a couple of 100 people there, maybe a few more, but and then 2 weeks later, give or take, I get communication from the CEO of EA that somebody had made a complaint, that they were investigating, and they'd given me a letter to say they were standing me down. I think the words they used were suspending me until the outcome of the investigation. And so my wife and I thought, well, that's great, but maybe we should sort of rally equestrian community is pretty close. And I figured if I explained to everyone, what potentially could happen, which was literally saying, look, I'm sorry if I offended someone, didn't mean to, we were having a bit of fun. This is, and just to put the note from the letter in that this is what's going to happen. I'd get a bit of support from our local horsey guys, and which I did, which was amazing. And I think we put it up lunchtime on Sunday, and I'd taken it down at 3:00 because it had caused such a stir.
Wow.
And then the fact that at 4:30 I'm getting phone calls from papers thinking, wow, this has gone a bit sort of crazy. And then, look, I feel sorry in some ways for EA. I don't think they meant to handle it the way they did, and they were trying to help me potentially as much as possible. But some of the things just got out of control for them, and in that they put out a statement, and once they put out a statement, then that's when the media got involved, and then it just went crazy. I was in the New York Times, CNN, like BBC. I had an interview with the BBC, and I'm listening, before, and they're talking about, what's happening in the Gaza Strip, what's happening in Russia and the Ukraine war, and what's happening in this. I think there was some massive murder in Spain. And on lighter news, a man in Australia wears a mankini.
Wow.
It's just like, it blew my mind how crazy it went and how quickly it went. Erin O'Neill, I think she's our performance director for the eventing. She is based in America and in France and sometimes in America. And she was tracking, because she's on a different time zone, she was tracking all the papers overseas, in the South China Post, in the French Gazette, in the New York Times, in all these papers and media outlets around the world. It was just crazy.
The two things I get from that is you put that mankini on thinking you're only performing in front of a couple of hundred people, and before you know it, everyone in the world has seen your ass, essentially, on a horse. And the second one, I think, is on that final day of eventing in Paris, in front of a packed Versailles, when Australia secured the gold, just take off the Aussie. Wear the mankini. What a way to win gold, right?
It would be pretty impressive. Yeah, no, and the support that I've got, I think I'd get a pretty good cheer at the time.
Yeah, you're going to be always the mankini guy, basically. That's exposure to, no pun intended, to equestrian that I'm sure you never thought you would have. So
look, if we could have dreamt to get that kind of publicity from doing a stunt like that, it would have been beyond the realms of anyone's imagination. So, it's brought our sport some media coverage that potentially we weren't otherwise going to get. Not my intention, but
well, again, all jokes aside, that every commentator on the planet, when you take to Versailles, he's going to be, and yes, and of course, people remember earlier this year, renowned for wearing it's going to be there forever. The one thing also I'll touch on as well, which actually this is very prominent today. We've got a show mascot on this show, Shane. This is Cherry, right? So he's a chair who's been through the wars. Now, this is very, I think, poignant to your situation right now, because again, look, he's got a bit of a bung leg, he's got a Band-Aid, he's overcome adversity, and look what's in his hand, a gold medal. So I'm trying to see how inspirational could Cherry be. I mean, even his back leg there is a bit bung, even more so than usual. Inspiration for you to get back on the horse, literally, for Paris.
Yeah, no, he looks pretty cool. And if I can get a gold medal and hang it around as proudly as he is, that's inspiration enough for me.
Beautiful. Get one for Virgil as well. We're hoping to get some pins or something made in the lead up, so we'll get you one. We'll get Virgil one as well, and we'll make sure.
He'd love one.
There you go. And I mean, also he would look good in a mankini, orange as well, mankini. So
perfect.
Fits very well. Exactly. Shane, we always close out with a set of get to know you style questions. As always, these are given to Team Canada athletes ahead. They were given to Team Canada athletes ahead of their Rio and Pyeongchang Olympics. There is an optional drawing element. I will always say it is optional. The Canadian athletes were asked to draw a picture of a teammate, draw a picture of themselves, their favourite animal. I mean, how would you be at drawing? Are you any good at drawing at all?
No, I'm
okay.
crap.
All right. Well, if you decide to give it a crack during rehab, draw something and send it through to us. But I'll start off with the first question. The greatest Olympian of all time is
Ian Thorpe.
Australian
or
anybody? You can name any Olympian you like.
Phelps.
Without
a doubt.
Okay, yeah. I like it. I took the Thorpe answer there for a second as well, but
I would run with Thorpe, but
national pride.
Australian, he was pretty amazing.
Exactly. The first Olympics you remember watching were?
Would have been Seoul in '88.
Okay.
Is it Seoul?
Yes, it is. And this is why I love getting
was
people...
Was it 84? Was
88.
It was 84.
84 was Los Angeles, LA.
Yeah, I can't really recall LA, so I reckon I'll go Seoul.
So I love getting people on the show who are actually older than me, Shane, because usually now I'm getting so many answers. If I remember watching Rio, you're like, oh, okay.
Yes, yeah. No, so I definitely would have watched LA, probably even the one before that. But yeah,
you have the memories of Seoul. There you go.
Yes,
that works. If you could be any superhero, who would you be?
Ooh, a superhero. I'd like to have the boy. Oh, actually, no. I was probably Superman.
Yes,
but I was thinking who's the one that goes in the water?
Aquaman. Yes,
he's got a pretty big rig, but then Superman does too.
Yeah, they're both pretty.
Very unlike me.
Well, we've all seen it now, Shane. So,
maybe I shouldn't be so sexist, and maybe I should say Wonder Woman.
Hey, exactly. She's pretty stacked too, right?
She is. So, yeah, ripped as.
I like that. Yeah, exactly. And this is the beauty of superheroes, right? Women can be male superheroes, male can be women super. It works. Yeah. I like it. And you're in the most gender equal sport of them all. So,
absolutely.
There's never any questions about gender in equestrian. It's like, just get on the horse and ride. Your favorite ice cream flavor is?
Oh, vanilla.
Yes. I always get excited when people say vanilla because I'm a big vanilla fanboy and people give vanilla a bad rap. Oh, it's too plain.
No, vanilla and then chocolate. But yes. Vanilla.
Good answer. You like Neapolitan, just a strawberry. Just don't eat that one, basically. If you were a baseball player, what would your walk-up music be?
Ooh. That's a good question. It would be something probably not very loud, pretty chill.
It's got to be. You can't scare birds, right? You got to have a nice,
somebody that I used to know.
Yes. Song? Keep the Aussie theme going. I like that. Yeah. That works. Can you have music like? In the lead up, I guess you don't want to spook the horse, right? But is there do you use any music for yourself to get yourself pumped up or anything?
I do listen to any music. I sort of try and keep my mind off what's going until I have to get focused. But we did for a few years. They had a competition in the UK or in Europe, Equi Ratings or Event Rider Masters. Sorry, the Equi Ratings ran. And you did do a dressage test to music, not a as in riding to music, but you had music in the background. But no, we don't have music really.
Yes, Brisbane 2032. Let's
absolutely bring it on.
Pump it up, right? Pump it up there. The best nickname you've ever been called is?
The Ringer is my nickname. Really,
Ringer.
I've had hundreds of them, but Ringer. As in Ringer Rosie, pocket full of posy.
Okay, I like that. No Borat in the last few months at all?
In the last few months, I've had quite a few, yes.
I do. I just have this beautiful image of like the Sydney Morning Herald the day after you win gold. Very nice. And then,
very, very nice.
Very, very nice. Simple, easy. If you weren't an athlete, what would you be?
Oh, if I'm not an athlete, I'd probably be a builder of some sort.
Okay.
Or a tradesman of some sort.
I like it. That works. Beautiful. Your guilty pleasure snack is? Chocolate. Yeah. So you're like a milk chocolate guy, dark?
Cadbury's, yeah.
Cadbury's. Beautiful.
Yeah. Cadbury's plain chocolate or caramello.
Oh, yes.
Marvelous Creations with the little jelly things and Smarties.
Yeah, those are so good. Do you like pack the suitcase up when you go to the Olympics or with the chocolate?
No, I don't. My wife's pretty good at doing that kind of stuff.
Okay.
Sending over a gift, but I'm quite routine at home and come in and eat chocolate. Whereas when I'm away, I'm not as focused on chocolate.
Okay, other things to do. Some other important things. To do. Yeah. The most recent TV show that you binge watched is?
I don't watch a lot, but my wife and I watched Afterlife.
Yes. Great show.
That was pretty cool.
Yeah.
And Ted Lasso.
Yes.
Those two.
Great. I was going to say, do you have a lot of time right now to watch shows in being in recovery or?
Yeah, we certainly finished those. We finished them both off in the last couple of months.
Pretty quickly. Your favourite place in the world to compete is?
Adelaide.
Okay. What's about Adelaide that makes it so special?
Oh, it's the only event in the world where you're doing a 5-star in the middle of a capital city.
Great. Okay. I like that. I don't think anyone's ever answered Adelaide on this show for that question before.
No, I'm sure they haven't.
Yeah, props to Adelaide. There we go. I like it. Last one for you, Shane. Your biggest fear in life. This is a deep question to end it on.
I would say snakes.
Snakes. Okay.
But somebody said the other day a fear of dying. And I hadn't really thought of it until they mentioned it. It's like, I actually don't want to die. I'm quite happy living. I like life. Yeah. Life is good. But yeah, no, look, I'm not really scared of much. I guess I'm mindful of the health of my family. You think about those things, they're out of your control. Most things are out of your control. Snakes, you can control. Can't control them, but you can see those little suckers and get away from them.
I think that's why, like, at the end of the day, I think everybody on this planet's number one fear would be death, but it's also one of those things where it's like, we don't like to think about that we're all going to die one day. Whereas snakes, if one rolls into your living room right now, you're like, shit, get it out of here, you know. So, you know.
Yeah, no, I just do not like snakes. Even though I know they're there and I can deal with them, I just would rather they didn't have to.
How do you deal with spiders? Because I find if somebody is afraid of snakes, they're fine with spiders, and usually vice versa.
Yeah, no, I'm fine with spiders.
See, I'm the opposite. I hate spiders, but I don't mind snakes. Like, I'm the complete opposite of that. Yeah.
So I wouldn't love it. I don't love it if a funnel web's crawling over you. But other than that, I'm pretty happy.
You're fine. Okay. All right. Yeah. I like that. Shane, before I let you go, mate, people want to follow your journey. As I said, we're sort of recording this a little bit before this will air, so I'm sure there'll be lots of updates sort of when we do air this on how you are and how close you are to Paris and everything. But where can people follow you between now and the Olympics?
I really should know this, but I have a couple of those things. I think I've got a Facebook thing, but I don't know how to get on it. And Instagram, I think it's Shane_M_Rose or something like that. But I think if you Google Shane Rose in most things, you'll find it.
We'll tag it in the post. And I think if you go to shanerose.com.au, it takes you to your farm, right? So it kind of your business. So that kind of works that way.
I'm a bit old for social media, and I'm very fortunate I've got people that look after that for me.
No TikTok yet? Because Andrew's on TikTok, isn't he? You haven't gotten the TikTok page?
Yeah, no, Andrew is too old for this kind of stuff, but he's very good at it.
Yeah, well, I mean, like he's got 50 years on you, doesn't he? I mean, come on, the guy doesn't age, I don't think. But
no, he's seemingly ageless. Yeah, no, it's not my thing. I'm busy. I concentrate on what I'm good at, and it's not social media.
Well, I'm sure somebody out there can help you along the way. But Shane, mate, this has been an absolute pleasure. We wish you all the best of luck with the recovery. We know we're going to see you in Paris. And I need to see that front page story of very nice with the gold medal around your neck. So I hope to see that.
Yeah, no, I'm trying absolutely everything I can to make that a reality.